world-renowned journalist John Pilger produced a documentary called Palestine is Still the Issue. 30 years later, he made another documentary with the same name, Palestine is Still the Issue. What we are witnessing today is an inflection in global politics. In other words, there is no turning back from what has happened in the last 18 months. There is no business as usual. I want to make 3 points on this issue. Point number 1, we have no allies in the traditional Western media. What has revealed itself in the last 18 months is that traditional Western media have completely and unashamedly bought into the narrative of the Zionists and Western countries. Let me give you an example. December 29th, when South Africa made the application to the ICJ, it was broadcast live on many TV channels, including Al Jazeera. The BBC refused to broadcast it. And the next day, when the Israelis put in the application, it was broadcast live. That is just one indication. There are hundreds of examples of the way the mainstream media has engaged with what has happened in Gaza. Point number 2, we have to be very, very cautious and careful on the power of language and the words that have been used. Now, numerous organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, even the UN's own institutions, and the ICJ have declared that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. There is no doubt about that. Remember, genocides don't happen overnight. What's been happening in Palestine is a systematic, well-planned, organized, managed extermination of the Palestinian people. It has been carrying on for the last 80 years. It's only now there is shock and awe among some Western intellectuals and organizations who are confronted with this barbaric and unprecedented extermination of the Palestinian people. We should be unapologetic to use the word genocide. In our discourse on a daily basis, in the media, this is the underlying narrative that we should be portraying. And the media should be courageous, should be speaking truth to power when they say this is a genocide.
Exactly.
Point number 3. For us to engage and go beyond the rhetoric, we need to fully invest in media. Not in terms of financial, but beyond that. What we have today is unprecedented in terms of information. 20 years ago, we had no social media. We had to rely on landlines. There were no cell phones 20, 30 years ago. There was no internet. We hardly had access to Wi-Fi, all of that. Real journalists were out in the field writing about what is happening on the ground. Today, at a click of a button, we are able to access information in real time about what's happening in Gaza. We have this enormous corpus of information. Let us use it as individuals, as private individuals and as collectives. We have to create an alternative narrative of what's happening in Gaza. If you are comfortable with receiving and digesting reports from the New York Times, Washington Post, the BBC, CNN, Sky News, then you have missed out on the real atrocities that have been taking place in Gaza. If you rely on the reports from these mainstream media, I truly believe that you don't know what's happening in Palestine. If you rely on the reports on the mainstream media, you don't know what's happening in the West Bank. Because in the West Bank, the template of what happened in Gaza is being reenacted in the West Bank. The systematic genocide of the Palestinians has started in the West Bank also. We have to be vigilant about how the issue of Palestine is portrayed in the media. We cannot accept, not now, not forever, that Palestine is a complex issue. It is not. Palestine is simply an issue of a colonial, settler, racist regime oppressing an indigenous population. That is the message, nothing else.